Here's a story based on the title Cheating Wife Failed at Hiding Truth. Cheating wife failed at hiding truth. Sophia and Ethan had been married for 7 years, a relationship built on trust, or so Ethan thought. Their lives were simple, their routines predictable. But beneath the surface of their domestic bliss lay a secret Sophia thought she could keep buried forever. For weeks, Ethan noticed subtle changes in Sophia's behavior. She'd started staying out late, claiming her workload had increased. She seemed distant, her phone always glued to her hand, but she rarely let Ethan see the screen. He brushed it off at first, chalking it up to stress, but doubt lingered in his mind. One evening, Sophia came home unusually late, her explanation feeling rehearsed. She kissed Ethan goodnight, but as she turned away, she forgot something crucial. Her work bag sat open on the kitchen counter, her phone peeking out. Ethan wasn't the type to snoop, but something compelled him. With a shaky hand, he unlocked her phone using the passcode he'd seen her enter 1,000 times. What he found confirmed his worst fears. Text between Sophia and someone named Aaron. The messages weren't innocent. They painted a picture of a relationship that had been unfolding in secret for months. Confronting Sophia wasn't easy. Ethan approached her the next morning, calm but determined. "Is there something you need to tell me?" he asked, his eyes piercing hers. Sophia hesitated, her face a mixture of guilt and panic. "What do you mean?" she replied, feigning ignorance. "I know about Aaron," Ethan said, placing her phone on the table. Her mask of innocence shattered. I can explain," she stammered, tears welling up in her eyes. "Don't," Ethan interrupted. "I gave you my trust, and you destroyed it. There's no explanation that can fix this." Sophia broke down, confessing everything. She admitted to meeting Aaron through a mutual friend, and that what began as harmless conversations had spiraled into something she couldn't control. Despite her pleas for forgiveness, Ethan couldn't look past her betrayal. The truth had come out, and there was no going back. As Sophia packed her belongings, she realized the full weight of her actions. She had failed to hide the truth, and in doing so, had lost the one person who had truly loved her. Let me know if you like any changes or further details added to the story as Sophia packed her things. The silence in the house was deafening. Ethan sat on the couch, his head in his hands, trying to make sense of it all. He had replayed their conversations in his mind, searching for signs he might have missed, moments where he could have stopped this from happening. But deep down, he knew the blame wasn't his to bear. Sophia lingered in the doorway, clutching her suitcase. "Ethan," she said softly, her voice cracking, "I never meant to hurt you. I don't know why I did it. I was selfish, and I hate myself for it." He looked up, his eyes red but his expression firm. "If you hated yourself for it, you wouldn't have done it in the first place. You didn't just betray me, Sophia. You betrayed us. Everything we built together." She bit her lip, unable to hold back the tears streaming down her face. "I'll never forgive myself for this," she whispered. "I'm sorry, Ethan, for everything." He didn't respond, turning his gaze back to the floor. The sound of the door closing behind her felt like the final nail in the coffin of their relationship. Hashtag weeks later. Ethan threw himself into work, his days a blur of meetings and deadlines. Nights were the hardest. He'd lie awake in bed, the empty space beside him a painful reminder of what he'd lost. Friends and family reached out, offering support, but no amount of kind words could fill the void. One evening, while scrolling through social media, Ethan received a message from someone unexpected. Aaron. "Hey, Ethan. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I need to tell you something about Sophia." Ethan's blood boiled as he stared at the screen. Against his better judgment, he replied, "What could you possibly have to say that I'd want to hear?" Aaron's response came quickly. "I didn't know she was married when we started talking. She told me after a few weeks, and I ended things immediately. I swear I had no idea. I'm sorry for my part in this, man. If there's anything I can do to make it right, let me know." Ethan read the message several times, trying to gauge its sincerity. He wasn't sure if Aaron's apology made things better or worse, but it gave him clarity. Sophia had lied to everyone, not just him. Hashtag, 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 Sophia struggles. Meanwhile, Sophia's life had taken a turn for the worse. Without Ethan's steady support, she struggled to keep her life together. Her affair with Aaron had cost her more than she ever anticipated. Her marriage, her home, even some of her closest friends. One night, she sat alone in her tiny apartment, staring at a photo from their wedding day. They had been so happy, so full of hope. She wondered if she'd ever find that kind of love again, or if she even deserved it. Sophia tried reaching out to Ethan several times, leaving voicemails he never returned. In one, she said, "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know I've changed. I've started therapy, trying to figure out why I did what I did. I hope you can find peace, even if it's without me. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag Ethan's healing." Months turned into a year. Ethan slowly began to rebuild his life, leaning on friends and rediscovering hobbies he'd abandoned during the marriage. He even started dating again, though cautiously. One evening, while clearing out an old closet, he stumbled upon a box of memories, photos, letters, little mementos from his life with Sophia. For a moment, he considered throwing it all away, but instead, he sat down and went through the contents one by one. By the time he reached the bottom of the box, he realized something. While Sophia had broken his heart, she hadn't broken him. He was still standing, still capable of love and trust. And though he'd never forget what happened, he was ready to let go of the anger and move forward. As for Sophia, her journey was far from over, but she hoped in time she could find redemption, not through words but through actions. Whether or not Ethan would ever see that change, she knew she owed it to herself to try. And so, life went on, different paths, different futures, but one shared lesson. The truth always comes to light, and with it, the chance to begin again. 2 years later, Ethan stood on the balcony of his new apartment, sipping a glass of wine as the city lights sparkled below. Life had taken a surprising turn for the better. He had found peace, surrounded by supportive friends, and immersed in a fulfilling career. A new relationship with Claire, a warm and grounded woman he met through mutual friends, had brought him a sense of calm he hadn't known in years. Sophia's betrayal had changed him, but it hadn't destroyed him. It had taught him the value of boundaries, the importance of self-respect, and the resilience of the human heart. Across the city, Sophia sat in a coffee shop, a book open in front of her, though her mind was elsewhere. Therapy had been a slow and grueling process, forcing her to confront uncomfortable truths about herself. She learned that her actions stemmed from deep-seated insecurities and a fear of vulnerability. She was working on herself, and while the road to self-forgiveness was long, she felt she was finally making progress. Fate, however, had a strange way of intervening. As Sophia left the coffee shop that evening, she glanced up and froze. Ethan stood just across the street, laughing with a small group of friends. He looked happy, truly happy, and it struck her like a bolt of lightning. For a moment, she considered crossing the street, apologizing again, explaining how much she'd changed. But as she watched him, she realized she had no right to intrude on his peace. He had moved on, and she needed to respect that. She turned away, disappearing into the crowd. Ethan's reflection ***. Later that night, Ethan sat with Claire, sharing stories about their day. He mentioned seeing Sophia, his tone neutral. "Did you talk to her?" Claire asked, her curiosity gentle, not prying. "No," Ethan said after a moment. "There's nothing left to say. I don't hate her anymore, but I don't need closure from her either. I've already found it." Claire smiled, squeezing his hand. "I'm proud of you," she said simply. Ethan returned the smile, feeling a sense of contentment he hadn't thought possible. He realized that healing wasn't about forgetting the pain. It was about learning from it, growing stronger, and finding the courage to open his heart again. As for Sophia, her journey continued, marked by small victories and setbacks. But one thing was certain, she wouldn't let her past define her. The truth had come out, and though it had broken her world apart, it also gave her the chance to rebuild, this time on a foundation of honesty and self-awareness. And so, both Ethan and Sophia walked their separate paths, carrying with them the lessons of their shared history and the hope of brighter tomorrows. #, 5 years later. Ethan stepped into the venue, a small but elegant hall adorned with soft lighting and fresh flowers. Tonight was a celebration, his engagement party with Claire. The years had deepened their bond, and now, surrounded by friends and family, they were preparing to begin their next chapter. As Ethan greeted guests, he spotted someone standing quietly at the edge of the room. His breath caught for a moment. It was Sophia. She had changed. Her once chaotic energy was replaced with a calm, almost serene presence. She looked nervous, holding a small gift bag in her hands. After a moment's hesitation, she approached Ethan. "Hi," she said softly, her voice steady but cautious. "I wasn't sure if I should come, but I heard about your engagement, and I wanted to congratulate you." Ethan studied her for a moment. There was no bitterness in his heart, only curiosity. "Sophia," he said, his tone kind but distant. "Thank you. I wasn't expecting to see you here." She gave a small, apologetic smile. "I ran into Jenna last week. Remember her? She told me about tonight. I didn't want to intrude, but I thought it might be a chance to close the book on things. For both of us." Ethan nodded. "I appreciate that." Sophia handed him the gift bag. "This isn't much, but I wanted you to have it. It's something I've been holding on to for a while, and I think it belongs with you." Curious, Ethan opened the bag. Inside was a small photo album. Flipping through it, he saw pictures from their early days together. Smiling faces, vacations, moments of joy. At the back was a handwritten note. Ethan, thank you for the years we shared. They weren't perfect, but they mattered. I've learned so much about myself since we parted ways, and I owe part of that to you. I'm sorry for the pain I caused, but I'm grateful for the lessons. I wish you and Claire nothing but happiness. Sophia *. Ethan closed the album, a mix of emotions swirling in his chest. "Thank you," he said sincerely. "It means a lot." Sophia smiled, relief washing over her. "Take care of yourself, Ethan. You deserve all the happiness in the world." As she turned to leave, Claire approached, curious about the exchange. Ethan introduced her to Sophia briefly, the conversation polite but brief. As Sophia walked away, Claire leaned into Ethan. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Yeah," he said, placing his arm around her. "I am. It feels like everything's finally where it's meant to be." Sophia's new beginning. As Sophia stepped outside into the cool night air, she felt a strange sense of closure. She had feared this moment for years, unsure of how Ethan would react to seeing her. But his kindness and forgiveness had given her something she hadn't expected, permission to forgive herself. She walked to her car, where a man waited for her, a gentle, understanding partner she'd met through her therapy group. He opened the door for her, smiling warmly. "How'd it go?" he asked. She exhaled deeply, smiling back. "Better than I thought it would. I think I can finally move on now." Driving away, Sophia felt lighter than she had in years. The weight of her mistakes no longer defined her. She had learned, grown, and found love again, not just with someone new, but within herself. Epilogue ***. Ethan and Claire married 6 months later, in a beautiful ceremony by the sea, surrounded by loved ones. Their life together was full of laughter, challenges, and unwavering support. Sophia, too, found happiness in her own way, building a life rooted in honesty and self-awareness. While their paths rarely crossed, both she and Ethan carried a mutual respect for the journey they had shared and the people they had become. In the end, the truth had set them free, proving that even the most painful revelations could lead to redemption and growth.